Going way back, my dad's family was Lutheran and my mom's family was Catholic, and my mom was still is a very devoutly religious person. I have no idea what my dad believes in. He probably believes in a god for like afterlife insurance purposes, I think, but I don't think he gives a shit about. I've never called it that before. I'm gonna call it that from now on. I don't think he really cares for religion really in any way, because I can remember when I was younger, him, well, not that much younger, like a college kid, saying stuff like, religion, that's where critical thinking goes to die. And I was like, damn, look at you being all based and shit. So then, but I still believed, and when I was really young, there was a Lutheran church, Highland Lutheran Church, and I would go there. It was in this town called Brant, South Dakota, population of about 40 people maybe. The whole town has one paved road. The rest are all gravel roads. But the thing about small rural communities in the Midwest is they are very, or at least I don't know what things are like nowadays, now that politics has gotten everything so incredibly divisive. But they were like really cohesive, and the church was sort of like the communal place, right? So going to church was actually really nice. We didn't have fire and brimstone preachers. And I went to Sunday school there, and I don't really remember much about it. My prevailing memory is Corey Anderson, who was just an absolute little shithead, being absolutely unbearably uncontrollable. Like we'd be sitting there trying to read from the Bible or talk about something, and he'd be picking up his chair, running around with it, being like, "Look, I have udders," and just the stupidest shit. He was one of those out of control, just terrible kids whose parents didn't hit him hard enough or something. I'm not sure what the problem was, but so I always had I had really good experiences growing up there, and then when I got a little bit older, I think my mom took really seriously, no, my children are going to be Catholic. They're going to get baptized and confirmed in the Catholic Church and go through everything. And I'm pretty sure my dad was just like, I don't fucking care. So we did that. And growing up in the Catholic Church, again, it was the same kind of thing. It was a little bit, well, no, I don't want to say that, but it was, again, I really liked it. We had this, priest, Monsignor Barnett. He was this big, giant Santa Claus-like dude, except he had a friar haircut. Not by choice. He was just old and bald on the top. And he had no beard or anything like that. But he had this enormous booming voice. And when he would sing, the church would vibrate. And he told the most hilarious stories. But he was also, he made you really like being there. And he got, by our local bishop, he got called to go somewhere else, and I don't even know where he went. And man, when I tell you the entire congregation was crushed by that, they were absolutely crushed by that, because everybody loved him. And then after church, the bakery would always bring over donuts, and I would always try to be first in line because I wanted to get a jelly roll. So, and then yeah, same thing. It was our CCD classes were just taught by the dads of people that were in my class that I knew. And it was always, like I said, it was very nice. It wasn't about there was no fire and brimstone or anything like that. So I had a good time growing up in the church. And then in college, I kept going to church for a little bit, but then I stopped going, and I just kind of started taking religion less and less seriously. But I believed in all of it for whatever reason. But then right after I graduated college, I started getting into, funny enough, Donald Trump played a big role in my deconstruction, because I just never thought about my own religion in any kind of deep way. I don't believe mythological stories about X, Y, or Z. And I just, for whatever reason, never just applied that skepticism to Christianity. But what I was starting to notice, and I had been noticing it for a little while, but it really started getting intense during that election season in 2015-16 was all of the most deeply politically right-wing people that I know that are the worst people are the most deeply religious people I know. I was like, what the fuck's going on with this? And I started looking into it more and just being more skeptical toward the religious wing of the like whatever politics sphere of our country and all that. And I started watching like Bill Maher and watching old Christopher Hitchens videos and Sam Harris and got really into all of them. And I started to realize I have no better reason to believe what I believe in than a Muslim does for whatever they believe in or anything else. So then I just kind of started realizing, yeah, there's no good argument for any of this. And then like evolutionary biology was deeply inconvenient for reasons that I never thought of. But I just literally saw, I think it was a YouTube comment, somebody said, if evolution is true, then Adam and Eve never existed. There is no original sin. There was no reason for Jesus to have ever existed. And I was like, fuck, that might have been the final nail in the coffin. That thing right. That's funny how I can remember a very specific thing, but yeah, that is my 6-minute answer to your question.
You're funny. I enjoyed it. So do you support or not support raising children as Christians? Because I'm atheist, but my girlfriend is Christian, and I was wondering how that's gonna work out.
I guess I wouldn't necessarily have any problem with it. I mean, my situation, my wife is agnostic. I'm an atheist. We're not going to take our kids to church because neither of us do that. It's just not going to happen. But I don't know, like if my kid like gets older and starts going to school, and they like meet a friend and they're like, Dad, like all my friends go to Catholic mass or whatever, and I want to start going with them. I would probably sit down and talk to them and be like, well, okay, I'm just going to tell you what I think and like try to give you like the brief history as I understand it and like tell you why we don't believe in this. But I don't know. I don't know if I would really have a problem with them going so long as their friends weren't like Southern or what is that? What's that horrible church called? The Southern Baptist, whatever.
The Southern Baptist, but you get like the new IFB, the independent fundamental, new independent fundamentalist Baptist church. They're really extremists. The extreme.
Oh,
ones.
the Westboro Baptist Church. That's what I'm thinking.
Westboro. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that. So as long as it wasn't something like that, I don't know. I don't think I'd really have much of a problem. My parents were always they never told me what to think or what to believe in. They just kind of nurtured my nature. I would say they're like, well, Eric likes to do X, Y, or Z, so you know what? Let's let Eric do that, and we'll like support him in whatever way. So like, as a teacher and as a future parent, I kind of decided a long time ago. There are some books I read that convinced me of this. That's the only way to healthily foster a child is to nurture their nature instead of being like, well, yeah, I know it's 4:30 in the morning, but put on your fucking coat. You're taking figure skating lessons. You know, like that will never, ever, ever, ever be the way I am. So yeah, I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with it. I would have to know what they're getting into though.
There does seem to be a kind of like an almost vicarious nature to it sometimes, that parents, having grown up in themselves, they believe these things, and then whatever experiences that they might have had, whether they were negative or positive, there's that kind of like desire to relive those things, or to relive the positive things through the eyes of their children, or to maybe see them have an experience that was not negative so that they can kind of like vicariously experience that more positive thing that they never got. And I see that informs a lot of these relationships. The only thing I could possibly add to this, I love what Planet Peterson was saying here. I don't have kids myself, and my wife and I are not planning on having children. But in this particular situation, if I did have kids, I can only kind of follow what my mother did. Is, even though my mother is a devout believer, she emphasized priority in my brothers and I's lives as we were growing up. Critical thinking. It was critical thinking and asking questions, and to never, ever, ever be afraid to ask a question, even if it's of an authority figure. If someone comes along and says this thing is true, or they're trying to convince you of something and it doesn't make sense, don't just accept it. So it was literally my mother emphasizing critical thinking and not being afraid of asking questions and not being afraid to dig for the truth and doing the work, that she beat that into us so much, or raised us to believe that it's one of the reasons why I'm a non-believer today, why technically, if you were to classify me, I'd be an atheist, because despite the fact that she's a believer, she wanted that ahead because she didn't want us being taken advantage of in the future by grifters and charlatans and con men who would like capitalize on that belief in that faith aspect. So that's a tough situation to be in, Blue. Are you, just to clarify, are you two currently expecting, or are you planning?
Oh no, we just plan. We're not expecting.
Okay, gotcha. All right,
we're not even married yet, so.
Okay, so a much better scenario, because if you were expecting and then all of a sudden having this conversation, I was like, ooh, that would be rough. And but yeah, I think that's a good conversation to have, a really good conversation to suss out. Find where the two of you land, because I can guarantee you, my mom and my dad did not, and my dad was he was a man's man, but he was very much my mother was the queen of his world. So where she went, he followed, and so she was devout. So therefore, he went along and was with it. He was kind of one of those guys. But he was never like huge in enforcing it. Very similar to Planet Peterson's dad. My dad was kind of the same way. Midwestern dads. I don't know what it is, but my mother was the Bible thumper in the not an extremist, not a funny, but the Bible thumper in the family. It just didn't take with me. So, but yeah, good convo to have there, Blue.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because the way I grew up was I grew up in the South, so my parents are very conservative, and they're also very religious. But I'm glad my mom really never tried to force her opinions on me. She'll talk to me about her opinions, but she won't force them on me. And I think that's how I'm gonna be with my kid, if I choose to have one. I think I'll try to reason with them through it, but I'm not gonna be like, no, you're gonna be a liberal.
But how are we supposed to make more liberals if you don't do that? No, I can't. When I hear about that, should I raise my child in a particular faith, or like when I hear that, I have this kind of like gut recoil, this like kind of recoil in my gut, and what it is the psychological harm that comes from certain aspects of that. Not all of it is psychologically harmful, but a lot of it, some of the bigger things, is like the idea that people are born fundamentally broken. That's a psychologically harmful idea. The fact that there is a threat of hell to reinforce good behavior, that's psychologically harmful. That if there's the promise of something good to reinforce good behavior, and like these are in the long term very harmful concepts. That that's why they indoctrinate. That's why children are indoctrinated with them, so it informs everything they have going forward. And so if you're willing to kind of like keep that critical inquiry open and teach them that, I think that's the right path. Allow them to ask questions, that it's okay, and kind of like I agree with what you said, Blue. Don't force the path, but let them walk the path and guide and walk alongside them as they're figuring it out. But let them walk that path on their own steam. I think that's the smart way to go about it.
Now that I think about it, this might have been the biggest thing that put me on the path toward deconstruction. I kind of said it earlier, like all the most fundamentally religious people I knew were the worst people I knew. Well, it was more the other way around. The people that just said and thought the most disgusting things always were like, "Oh, I'm just such a beautiful Christian," though at the same time. Like I remember when gay marriage, the Supreme Court voted that it's not unconstitutional. I had like these couple of people I went to college with just getting on Facebook and just being so mad. And I like wrote a post where I was kind of trolling them or whatever. And they were just like, and I was just like, can you give me a reason? And it was just pure hate. Like this one guy, his name was Kyle. He weighed like 500 pounds maybe, and I never said anything, but I was like, because I just can't do this because I'm not like Kyle. I was like, what if I just said like, yeah, well, people who are 500 pounds, gluttony is a sin too. Jesus preached austerity, and you're being a glutton with your food bowl. I would have. I wasn't. I'm not. I still am not that kind of person. But I was like, I would like to do that just so you can see this is what it's like to be attacked for your identity, and the fact that you don't like it. Maybe you won't get it. Maybe you'll just be like, no, it's not fair. It's different for me. Like maybe you won't get it, but you should at least see what it's like. But I didn't do that. But
Why did it have to be a food bowl?
I don't know.
Like,
I don't know.
I think
I don't. Plates weren't enough for Kyle. You got
Or like like a feed bag.
You have to have some. What's that thing that you put on a horse where they put the oats in it? Whatever that is.
Ears and just hang off his face.
Yeah. But anyways, that was sort of later, but like earlier on, talking to people in college and them just saying stuff like, "Oh yeah, like if you're not a Christian, you go to hell." I was like, "Pre-contacted Native Americans are all burning in hell?" And they're like, "Yeah." I was like, "Jews are all in hell?" Yeah. I was like, "What in the fuck is?" So that probably more so than anything, what to me was like, if this is what this is, then I don't want to be a part of it. And I don't, for the most part, I don't think I've ever met a Catholic that thinks that way. So, I mean, yay for us, I guess, or well, what I used to be, I guess, yay for them. But yeah,
I was gonna talk about that on how church likes to breed a lot of like hatred for gay marriage and things like that. That's another reason why I would probably be against taking my children to church because I believe people are born gay, and I don't know if you think that way, but I think people are at least born with a little bit of genetic factor that determines if they're going to be gay or not. And if you
yeah,
take those children and put them through church where it teaches them it's a sin, that you're going to go to hell because you love someone that you love and you don't know why, I think that's very harmful.
yeah. I mean, I don't believe you're
I
born with a sexual orientation. I my take on the is it a choice or is it not is what I basically say is it's not exactly a free choice. That's my stance on it. Because if you say you're born that way or whatever, that's I mean we can very easily prove that that's not the case. But biological determinism, I think, is an extremely dangerous thing to cling to for it because that can be justified for all kinds of horrible things, like racial inferiority, and therefore they'll never be able to integrate or do XYZ because they're just fundamentally different. But like, I'll make it extremely quick. Identical twins, their sexual orientation only correlates at about 70%, 0.7. So it's clearly very strongly genetic, but it's not entirely that. So people clearly make a decision, but you don't choose how you are attracted to like you can't choose what food you like. You can't choose to be convinced of the evidence of something. And I don't think you you choose who you're attracted to, but you don't choose what you're attracted to, if that makes sense.
That's
Right.
why I believe it's partially.
Yeah.
Partially
Yeah,
genetic.
as a member as a member of the LGBTQ community, being bisexual myself, and taking a long time to like come to terms with that and understand who I was and accepting my identity, because my father while like I described him earlier, but my father was raised extremist fundamentalist, like extreme fundamentalist. I would say Baptist, but even then, in the 70s, it was a different kind of animal. And he was also a military brat. So my grandfather was a Marine Corps, and I saw action in Vietnam and in Korea and Vietnam. So a particularly hard individual. My grandmother on that side was an extremist, scary fundamentalist Christian, and so the idea that his eldest son would be anything other than straight, would have sent my father like spiraling. And my mother knew, but so my mother was like, "We're gonna keep this to ourselves. Your dad's not gonna know because he can't know, because likely my father would have, my father loved me, but he may have done harm to me, or something terrible might have happened. That's just who my dad was." And I knew it took me a long time to recognize that the anxiety and the distance that I was experiencing was because I was not able to accept that this is who I was. This is who I've always been. My mother pretty much had an idea like long before it was even a conceptualization. She was like, "Yeah, I don't." My mother was like, "Yeah, I don't think he's straight." It was just things that come out. So there is I do think there's an aspect of biology that plays into it. It's not totally that way, and it also comes along into how your brain develops, how your neural pathways develop, what behaviors are reinforced, and so a lot of things can play into that. A lot of like external factors can play into that as you're developing. But yeah, I would agree with you. It's not a choice. It was not a choice for me. And luckily, I got very lucky, unlike so many of my LGBTQ brothers and sisters who do not have the support systems that I did. And I got really, really lucky, especially, but even growing up in the growing up in the late '80s and the '90s in Texas was rough because it's Texas, and so in that respect, I got lucky. But yeah, not a choice. So I appreciate your take on that, Blue. I do.
Yeah, there people argue like there's this guy Dean, he's really huge on TikTok, and he does these live streams where he like the prompt is like, why is it wrong to be gay or whatever, and he's pretty good at dunking on bigots, but I haven't heard it in a really long time, but he has this argument where he says, well, there's a gene variant that like all gay people have or whatever. And I've always been like, you really don't want to say stuff like that because of the biological determinism aspect. But it also obviously is flatly untrue. There's also this other, and I don't remember what it is, but people say if there's something you're exposed to, I think like if your mother listens to Careless Whisper at exactly the 49th day of pregnancy, you will be gay or something like, no, there's like this chemical thing where there's this hormone where if it's activated at this time, like I've heard that too, like it's been discovered, we found out what makes them gay or whatever. But again, identical twins don't always have the same sexual orientation. So whatever prenatal conditions there are and whatever genetic whatever that there is, it's not borne out as completely deterministic by that with the study of identical twins. So,
well, my mother did listen to a lot of Liberace.
My mom, my older brother, my mom went to I think it was Bruce Springsteen. No, I can't remember. She went to a concert when she was pregnant with my brother. Man, I don't remember who it was though, but I want to say it was Springsteen. Yeah, I don't know.
Is your brother the boss?
No.
Okay.
I'm gonna text her right now.
So anything else first, Blue?
I don't believe that's all I had to ask, but I hope I
Awesome.
got some good content, Peterson. Tried my best to extend it as long as I could, since a lot of people raising their hands, but tried my best. Hey, Spanky.
Absolutely.
All right, well,
Spanky's catching on.
Oh, dude, look, he's right behind Peterson right now, dude.
Yeah,
Mine
he
isn't as cool
is.
as Peterson's. Mine doesn't have glasses or a party hat.
Well, you can get each of those things. You can get the sunglasses free from any gas station. And the party hat, I mean, those are like, I don't know, like 99 cents at Walmart or something.
Oh, yeah, I need to drip out my Spanky.
Yeah. I should get him a gold chain.
just like Erica did the Baffy plushies. Okay, and Skeptic is working on a Lisa the Rainbow Giraffe. You should do a Spanky plushie. You could do it.
Oh no, I do sell them. I've sold.
You have a Spanky plushie.
I've sold probably like 30 of them.
Nice. Spanky plushie.
So I got a
Awesome.
Spanky plushie right here.
Nice. Okay. So I'm gonna ask Spanky versus Lisa.
Oh, Spanky.
Spanky.
Dude,
Eric doesn't want to come.
Spanky has so much lore you don't understand.
Really?
That's not a joke. We have on my server, there's a dedicated channel, and it's called Official Spanky Lore, and we engineered ChatGPT to take on the persona of Spanky, and it says the funniest shit ever. It has its own opinions. Like we ask it like, how shall we celebrate when something happens, and it pretty much always says to eat tacos, and we didn't tell it that. It just on its own the sacramental meal is the taco, and so it pretty much always says that. It hates the Boston Celtics. It's so funny. It came up with all this shit on its own. It's so hilarious.
Two diss tracks
I don't
on the
have-
fucking Celtics.
I don't have my own god. I don't have my own deity created, but I have the only thing I've got is I created the official Darth Dawkins squeak toy. So, and I turned my camera on, but but it seems like it's not coming up. Maybe because I'm splitting it between my live stream and this. But I do have the official Darth Dawkins squeak toy that I created, and it is a piss yellow, because that's the quality of his arguments, squeak toy that is perfect for dogs. And when you squeeze it, it makes the same sound that he makes when he argues for his presuppositional apologetics. So, but yeah, I have the Darth Dawkins squeak toy. There you go. You kind of heard it there. I can't do it too loud because my dogs will freak out. So, but I have that, and I created those with that. That's my creation. That's my my addition to it.
Alrighty, well, that's amazing. Anyways, it was a nice conversation with y'all. I'm gonna head out now because Future has his hand up. So you guys have a good day.
Cool. You too, Blue. Thanks so much for coming out, bud.
Good job.
Apparently, someone in my live chat created Meowlith, insanely cute elder being. So Meowlithep is apparently a god as well.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, every now and then I worry that I'll accidentally create a cult, but I don't care.
Spanky doesn't sound like too bad of a cult. It doesn't sound like too bad. Like a nice little pops up in these trying times.
Yeah, it's like there's like literally nothing prescriptive about our cult. You just have to say that Spanky is the creator and the ultimate grounding for reality, and anybody that claims different is borrowing from our worldview. And there is a Spanky Bible, and it says, it's reversed, but it says, "This book is true." There, that proves it. And every single prophecy in the Spanky Bible has happened. And they continue to come true every single day. It says things will happen.
It's on point. And apparently it grounds all epistemology. It grounds all transcendentals.
Yep.
Excellent. All right. And I see Future Nightmare's got his hand up. So Future, let's bring you up. Future's a good friend of mine.
Oh, yeah. Me and Future go way back, probably like 8 months or so.
Future and I have been working on. Future and I have been working on some big brain philosopher moments when we in the deep hours of Discord discussions, which has been a lot of fun. But how you doing, bud?
I'm not too bad. Since Peterson likes the precept arguments, what's your grounding for all presuppositions, epistemics, and ontology? What's your grounding for that?
Spanky.
Yeah, well, it's not my god, so get wrecked.
Get wrecked. No.
I win. Get wrecked, nerd.
My strategy lately is just to use Spanky to prove that their claim is nothing special. Or what's been hilarious, I didn't realize that they. It's weird because they have a script, but they actually don't even have an argument, because this has happened it's happened 3 times lately. I simply ask them, why should I believe what you're saying? And they can't say anything. We went through this. They either say, well, the opposite is impossible. Like, I'm not going with an alternative. I'm not asking you. This is basically what it always is. I didn't ask you to try to figure out if I don't know something else. I asked you to tell me why I should believe what you are saying. And they can't give you anything for that. It's always, yeah, well, if we appeal to blippity blop, then that becomes circular, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I didn't ask you about that. Why should I believe what you're saying? And they can't do that. So I've had 3 rage quits in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's just because you're getting destroyed by their argument. You don't have a good answer. That's what it is.
Yeah, so they this guy obviously knows nothing about philosophy, and then they leave. Like, substantiate your premises. You don't even know anything about philosophy. Bye, nerd. It's like,
I've just gotten to the point with the pre-suppers. I just say, I'm a solipsist. Get me to your axiom. Do that. And then
Well.
just constantly say, how do you know that? How do you know that to be the case?
yeah.
Piss them off.
Darth only one time in his entire life was ever honest. And it was a long time ago. He was debating Destiny, and Destiny asked him, how do you know that? How do you know that? And Darth finally said, because it's been revealed in the Bible. And then Destiny said, how do you know that that's true? And he said, God revealed it to me in such a way that I don't even question it. And then Destiny's like, oh, so it's unjustified. Thank you. And he has been livid about that ever since it happened. And he will not answer any questions because of that singular event.
He doesn't. Darth doesn't do any arguments based off the Bible at all.
Oh
He just
no,
does
no.
the-
You ever catch that one where and I hate to give him props because he's an absolute piece of shit, but he did have a conversation with Pine Creek. And Pine Creek was like, it's like Pine Creek was like, okay, great. I accept everything you're saying about epistemology and or instead of the transcendentals and all this. I accept it all. Let's talk about Jesus and the Bible. And he would not do it. Avoided it like it was the plague. And even though Pine Creek's like, I concede to everything, you're right on it all. Let's talk about the Bible. Nope. And it's like sounded kind of like one of those vultures in a Looney Tunes cartoon. So, just the weirdest shit ever.
I mean, he doesn't.
I think it's because if you talk about the Bible, sorry. Go ahead, Pearson. I cut you off.
Well, I was just gonna say he doesn't his whole shtick is just word games and do you know what this esoteric term means? But he does, he doesn't necessarily bring up the Bible, but he does if you ask him, if you let him make his case, he always ends it with, and that's only possible because of the God that was revealed in the Bible. So he does, but doesn't use the Bible, I guess I would say.
Well, he doesn't use verses or try to argue the evidence or anything like
Correct.
that. He just goes with the precept. And I think the reason why is because if you talk about the Bible, you can start pointing out contradictions, and then once you start pointing out contradictions, well, then it's a bad case for his God thing. So if you say that, yeah, I agree with everything that you're saying, that, yeah, there's got to be a God, but then let's get into the Bible and see why it's not your God, then that's a problem.
Yeah.
UDEF in my live chat has brought up Darth is a deeply damaged person. It has nothing to do with religion. He gets his rocks off by abusing people. That's I would say that is objectively true. Even if we had, I don't believe we have access to objective truth, but we may just have an objective truth there. Absolutely. And of course, Felicia by nature, good to see you, says Darth also doesn't like talking to women because Shannon Q called him out for being a jerk. The Shannon Q debate was a big one. Still sticks in his craw to this day. Years later, he still goes off about how Shannon Q deconstructed him during, and it was off the cuff, which is what's insane because she wasn't supposed to be debating that night. It was someone else. They called out because of a conflict, and she was like, hey, do you want to come in and do this? I'm only half a bottle of wine in. Sure, why not? And so she jumps on there and completely just dismantles him from every aspect, and which was hilarious to me.
Yeah,
and he is still burnt.
She psychoanalyzed him really well. She just kept being like, wow, this is fascinating. So you think that if somebody blank, I can't remember exactly what she said, but she did such a good job of it. And she sat there and answered his questions for a good hour. And then she was like, what, do I get to ask any questions? And James, the moderator, was like, yeah, we have to let Shannon ask. And Darth just absolutely pissed his pants and screamed for 15 minutes and then rage quitted.
Right.
The funny thing is that Darth hasn't shown his face around the server at all anymore. He's
He lost
only
his mod
debating on
powers.
TikTok now.
Yeah. He lost his mod privileges from the server. I think that's why.
I think he's still a mod in the atheist room. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Well, there was somewhere he lost. Because he was openly talking about it, and a lot of other people were too, that he lost his mod privileges, and so because he can't command the mute button, I think that's why he had to go over to TikTok.
I think that was in PNR. I think that was a while ago.
Yeah, I think when the analytics and when Tom Rabbit stopped covering him regularly, that's when we pretty much knew that the bottom had fallen out of that there was almost no gas. I remember being in politics over one time, and he was in that atheist helpline chat that he does, and he was sitting in there for, I think it was about 20 minutes, and no one joined. And just sitting there by himself in that room, no one. And I was sitting there watching. I was like, he's in there all by himself. Oh, it's going to kick off and get huge. And I kept expecting people to join, and it never happened. Eventually, I was kind of like, I messaged him and was like, "Hey, dude, feeling kind of irrelevant these days," and he never responded. But yeah, it's like I think the gas is out of it. He's a lol cow. I think he's been milked for all he's worth, and time to put him out to pasture. That's why. I mean, he's on TikTok now, but he keeps getting banned for hate speech.
Yeah.
So,
dude, if I read you the DMs I have with Darth, I have never been able to re-achieve the god level gaslighting that I was able to achieve with Darth. It was so fucking funny.
The last time I messaged him, it was years ago when I was officially put on the auto ban because I'm a defamer, a stalker, and a whatever he calls people. But I did my one video on Darth where I deconstructed his precept and all that other nonsense, and I had to do kind of a deep dive on him because I didn't want to gaslight him or misrepresent him. So I had to understand where he was coming from. So I wanted to understand the man behind the rhetoric. And apparently, and I talked to some people that he did not want me talking to, or did not want, people talking about him, that people that know him. And I did my research, took about a month, and I managed to break it all down. I didn't dox him or release any information, but he found out and he was pissed. And so I think the last conversation I had with him, he threatened me. He was like, if he ever saw me, he was going to take, action or whatever. Like if he ever came across me or whatever. And I was like, wow. And then he blocked me, and we haven't spoken since. So he gets really, really mad.
For me, I didn't even get really a chance to talk or debate with him. I think that was because I changed my profile and my username to Darth Dawkins and was going around on TikTok live saying, "What's the ontological primary reason for my wife and kids leaving me?" I think that did it in.
What's the ontologically primary? There's some dude on TikTok that goes by like Doth Darkins or something like that. Like it's a parody of him, and they're kind of doing, not that specifically, but they're parodying him on TikTok. It's really funny.
I got the video up of him blocking me, and he was like, "Do you know Future Nightmares? What's your first off the conversation?" I was just sitting there listening. Wasn't gonna plan on debating. I'm just gonna record him, and that's it. But he called me out, and I had my headphones on, but I was in a different room. And anyways, he starts out the conversation. He's like, "What's your TikTok?" It's the same on here. And he's like, "Oh." So he takes 5 minutes to, I guess, put on his glasses, went down on his phone, slowly type. I imagine he's a very slow typer. Try to find my username, and he's like, do you know why I have you blocked and on TikTok, Future Nightmares? I'm like, honestly, I don't know, and I don't really care. And he's like, what do you think you would have done to deserve a block from me? I'm like, that's a good question. I don't know. I don't know why you blocked me. And he's like, yeah, that's a or sorry, no. He said something like,
"You're lying."
Yeah, he said I was a liar.
If you don't give the answer I predetermined that you will give, I will call you a liar.
You're a liar. You're a stalker. You're a defamer. You're
rude. You come in and you're rude and you're dishonest.
This is
He
what
called
you
me,
do. This is what you do.
Yeah.
This is what you all do. This is what you atheists do.
He called me a gratuitous capital T troller. Is what he called me.
Ooh,
Wow.
a troller.
Well,
Capital T troller.
I apparently got my PhD from the University of Dunning-Kruger. That was one of the things he said about me. I wasn't in the room. I think I was listening, but I wasn't allowed to talk to him. And I think he was like, "Oh, there's that J.L. Warren with his PhD from Dunning-Kruger University." And I was like, "Awesome!" So I got my PhD there. At least it wasn't for At least it was. I was just thinking that. At least it wasn't for Patriot University.
PragerU.
Or PragerU. What the fuck?
Have you guys ever like looked into like the PragerU videos?
Just a
I've
little.
covered a couple of I've covered a Prager and a couple of I covered Dennis Prager on one video, and I covered some other stuff before I have like responded to stuff. It's nonsense. It's batshit.
It's really bad. It's really, really bad.
You're talking about a group of people that makes like arguments like slavery was good for African Americans because it gave them stability and jobs to focus on, so that they whitewashing pretty much antebellum slavery and American exceptionalism, how America could do no wrong and all this other insane stuff. Yeah, they're freaking. Dennis Prager is insane.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and of course, even worse, the superintendent of education here in Oklahoma embraces all that nonsense and actually has authorized PragerU kids material to be taught in schools here in the state. So, but there is a reason why Oklahoma is 49th in the nation in education.
Oy. Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah,
I figured it would just be all the tornadoes knocking down the schools half the time.
right. Just Ryan Walters did, and then again, Ryan get him out of office. He's under investigation right now for misappropriation of funds. Of course, obviously he's lauding all this stuff that he's doing for Christians, and it turns out that he is misallocating funds, and there was money that was allocated in the state budget that was supposed to in the education budget that was supposed to go to inhalers, albuterol inhalers, because the poverty level in Oklahoma in some areas is very, very high, and children and parents simply can't afford to get asthma inhalers for their kids. So there was an actual bill that was passed that would allow for the state to fund having rescue inhalers like in schools, like as part of the nurse's office. And that money never got spent. Like I think it was to the tune of like almost $3 million, and it never got spent. Like the money just never went there. And then there was other money that was allocated towards beefing up security in schools in the wake of Uvalde. In the wake of Uvalde, Oklahoma was like, let's allocate money specifically to improving the security in our largest, most populated schools in the biggest counties, and make sure that our kids are protected. That money never got allocated. It was supposed to be like something like $280,000 per school to go to them, and that money never got allocated to them. Like they applied for it. It was like, hey, there's the money. Let's apply for these deals. Money never showed up. So security money and asthma inhaler or inhaler money never arrived. No, don't know where it went.
But if there was a bill that would cost about $3 trillion for gold-plated Bibles to be in every school for every kid, it would get passed immediately. Which would be, I don't know. I mean, a Bible is pretty bulletproof, so I think a Bible in the backpack of every kid in America is probably a good idea for that reason. Also, the toilet paper in schools is so bad. I honestly think that rice paper they put in Bibles might do the job better. For those two reasons, I support a Bible in the backpack of every child in America.
They just rip out the pages and make a roll out of it?
Yeah. Wait, are you talking about doobies?
They do have doobies?
they could be used as doobies.
Well, you said make a roll out of it.
I was talking about a paper roll as in terms of like, toilet paper roll. That's what I was talking about.
No. You talking about rolling A's, man. Raps.
Yeah.
Rolling papers.
Let me just blaze it up with Jesus here real quick.
The book of Leviticus makes some fantastic raps, man.
You guys know that burning bush? I think I know what he was talking about.
Oh, it's killer. And you mentioned that putting like a bill, putting Bibles in putting Bibles in classes. He's actually trying to he was trying to pass a bill. I don't know how familiar are with what's going on in Oklahoma, but Ryan Walters trying to pass a bill, or no, he was trying to get $3 million to purchase Bibles to be put in every single classroom, and it was mandated, compulsory that teachers teach from these things, and that the Bibles he wants specifically meet the criteria for the Bibles that he wants that have the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and other stuff that in them specifically match the Trump Bible. So what Ryan Walters is actually doing is he's flagrantly defying the First Amendment and doing all this crap as political theater to win points in the event that Donald Trump wins wins this next term. He's vying for to be in charge of the DOE. He wants to be the next Betsy DeVos, is what he wants to be. So he's trying to win political points so that he's using our schools, Oklahoma schools, as his shooting gallery to score points for a position in the Trump administration. That's what he's doing. That's specifically what he's going for.
Yeah, that I was aware of, and he said like you can't teach the history of America without teaching the Bible, and that's how they try to make it like, well, we're not gonna like preach the Bible or anything like that. We're just gonna like talk. It's like the teach the controversy stuff, like that. We all know that that's not your actual intent.